Have you seen any impact on Berkshire's businesses or higher costs associated with any tariffs that have gone into place?
Yeah, there are a few, definitely. And we buy steel, for example. I mean, at MyTech, or we buy it at a lot of places. And we are seeing some effects from that, and we're seeing some effects from inflation.
I'm sorry, from inflation.
We've seen more in the way of cost increases in the last year, if you go across all of our businesses, but particularly building materials, or we sell paint. I mean, the can it comes in, that is a lot more expensive than it was a year ago.
How much of the inflation is directly tied to the tariffs, and how much is just from an improving economy and inflation you would expect to creep in?
I can't tell you exactly yet, and some of them are kicking. Well, newsprint, it pops up in different places. I haven't really done that, but I was seeing it in raw materials well before the tariff situation came up. But the tariff situation will aggravate it significantly.
When you think of the consequences to the people that have spent a lifetime learning one trade, and who live in those areas, and through no fault of their own, none. I mean, they've done a good job. They've done a great job working. They're productive, but in the end, their cost was 10 times or more, and they weren't getting paid that well, but they're 10 times what it could get done for elsewhere in the world. So we haven't really paid the price for that change in economic conditions. I mean, it's the people who work there, the people who work at Burlington or wherever, where the jobs disappear. And that's no argument for huge tariffs or anything of the sort. But retraining doesn't do much good if you worked in our textile mill, as many people did years ago, and you're 60 years old and you only speak Portuguese. Or if you work in Dexter, Maine, and you're 58, I mean, retraining, it gets kind of meaningless. So we're the lucky ones, basically in these situations. And it is tough when you know one trade, particularly if you live in a small town, not lots of other employment opportunities or things. So, we have a charge off, and they have a huge change in their lives, basically.
The president also tweeted about another initiative, and I just wondered what you thought about it. He said that after speaking with Indra Nooyi, we later found out that she was the one who had talked to him, that he would like to do something that he thinks will help American business. That's to say, stop reporting every quarter, maybe do it on a 6-month basis. What do you think of that idea? Because you have focused on long-termism.
Yeah. Jamie Dimon and I came out a while back, but I've always focused on the idea that, I like to read quarterly report. As an investor, and we've got a couple $100 billion worth of common stock, so I like to get those quarterly reports. I do not like guidance, and I think that guidance leads to lots of bad things, and I've seen it lead to lots of bad things. I don't think quarterly reporting itself, it's when you get into promising people what you're going to do every quarter, because I can't promise it what's going to happen. We're in the hurricane season now, and you can change our earnings dramatically with a storm or something of the sort. So I think it's a very bad practice to be in the game of earnings guidance, and it is a game. I mean, people play it as a game, and then people adjust the numbers and all that. But I like to get the figures quarterly, and I hope that stays.
I'm 85, and I can't imagine anybody any happier than I am. So, by accident or whatever, I'm sitting here eating exactly what I like to eat, doing in life exactly what I love to do with people I love. So it really doesn't get any better than that. And I did decide fairly early in life that my favorite employer was myself, and I think that presented. I've managed to avoid really aggravation of almost any sort. Really, if you or those around you that you love have health problems or something, I mean, that is a real tragedy, and there's not much you can do about it except it. But Charlie and I have really been blessed. I mean, here Charlie is 92, 85, and he's doing every day
something that he finds fascinating. You know, I think he probably finds what he is doing at 92 as interesting, as fascinating, as rewarding, as socially productive, you know, as any period you could pick in his life. And so we've been extraordinarily lucky. We've been, you know, we're lucky it's a partnership. It's more fun doing things as a partnership. So I've got no complaints. It'd be very churlish of me to have any kind of complaint. And I would say if you're talking about business life, I don't think I would have started with a textile company. Charlie?
Well, looking back, I don't regret that I didn't make more money or become better known or any of those things. I do regret that I didn't wise up as fast as I could have. But there's a blessing in that too. Now that I'm 92, I still have a lot of ignorance left to work on.
For the last several years at this meeting, you've been asked about the negative health effects of Coca-Cola products, and you've done a masterful job dodging the question by telling us how much Coke you drink personally. Statistically, you may be the exception. According to a peer-reviewed study by Tufts University, soda and sugary drinks may lead to 184,000 deaths among adults every year. The study found that sugar-sweetened beverages contributed to 133,000 deaths from diabetes, 45,000 deaths from cardiovascular disease, 6,450 deaths from cancer. Another shareholder wrote in about Coke, noted that you declined to invest in the cigarette business on ethical grounds, despite once saying, quote, "It was a perfect business because it costs a penny to make, sell it for $1, it's addictive, and there's fantastic brand loyalty." Again, removing your own beverage consumption from the equation. Please explain directly why we Berkshire Hathaway shareholders should be proud to own Coke.
Oh. Yeah, I think people confuse, you know, the amount of calories consumed. I mean, I happen to elect to consume about 700 calories a day from Coca-Cola. So I'm about 1/4 Coca-Cola, roughly. Not sure which quarter, and I'm not sure we want to pursue the question. But I think if you decide that sugar generally is something that the human race shouldn't have, I think the average person consumes something like 150 pounds of dry weight sugar a year, 125 pounds. I mean, you know, what's in Coca-Cola largely, where the calories come from, is sugar. I elect to get my 2,600 or 2,700 calories a day from things that make me feel good when I eat them. And that's been my sole test. It wasn't a test that my mother necessarily thought was great, or my grandfather, but there are over 1.9 billion 8-ounce servings of some Coca-Cola drink. Now, they have an enormous range of products, you know. I mean, they have a few that are called Coke, Diet Coke, Coke Zero, and that sort of thing. But they have literally thousands of products. 1.9 billion, that's, what is that, that's 693 billion, 500 million 8-ounce servings a year, except it's a leap year. That's almost 100 8-ounce servings per capita for 7 billion people in the world every year. And that's been going on since 1886. And I would find quite spurious the fact that somebody says if you're eating 3,500 or so calories a day and you're consuming 27 or 800, and some of the 3,500 is Coca-Cola, to lay it any particular obesity related illnesses on the Coca-Cola you drink. You have the choice of consuming more than you use. I mean, and
I make a choice to eat or to get 700 calories from this. I like fudge a lot, peanut brittle, and I am a very, very, very happy guy. And I don't know. I think, and I'm serious about this. I think if you were happy every day, it may be hard to measure, but I think you're going to live longer as well. So there may be a compensating factor. And I really wish I'd had a twin, and that twin had eaten broccoli his entire life, and we both consumed the same number of calories. I know I would have been happier, and I think the odds are fairly good I would have lived longer. I think Coca-Cola is a marvelous product. I mean, if you consume 3,500 or 4,000 calories a day and live a normal life in terms of your metabolism, something's going to go wrong with your body at some point. But I think if you balance out the calories so that you don't become obese, I have not seen evidence that convinces me that I'll make it. It'll be more likely I reach 100 if I suddenly switch to water and broccoli. Incidentally, a friend of mine, R.J. Miller, a remarkable man, born about 100 miles from here west, 8th child, near Shelby, Nebraska. He said Shelby's population was 596 and it never changed because every time some girl had a baby, a guy had to leave town. It was a very stable. But R.J. went on to be president of Ford Motor Company from this farm near Shelby, and he had his 100th birthday on March 4th of this year. So I went out to see R.J. for his birthday on March 4th, and R.J. told me that there were 10,000 men in the United States that had lived to be 100 or greater, and there were 45,000 women that were 100 or greater. So I came back and I checked that on the internet. I went to those census figures, and sure enough, that is the ratio. There's 10,000 men over 100 roughly and 45,000 women. So if you really want to improve your longevity prospects, I mean, a guy in my position, you have a sex change. I mean, you're 4.5 times more likely to get to be 100. That sounds like one of those studies that people put out. It's just a matter of fact, folks. I think I'll have Charlie go first, though, on that one. Charlie, do you have any comments?
Well,
have some fun.
I like the peanut brittle better than the Coke, but I drink a lot of Diet Coke, and I think the people who ask questions like that one always make one ghastly error that's really inexcusable. They measure the detriment without considering the advantage. Well, that's really stupid. That's like saying we should give up air travel through airlines because 100 people die a year in air crashes or something. That would be crazy. The benefit is worth the risk. And if every person has to have about 8 or 10 glasses of water every day to stay alive, and it's pretty cheap and sensible and improves life to add a little extra flavor to your water and a little stimulation and a little calories if you want to eat that way, there are huge benefits to humanity in that, and it's worth having some disadvantage. We ought to have almost a law in the editorial, I'm sounding like Donald Trump, where these people shouldn't be allowed to cite the defects without citing the offsetting advantage. It's immature and stupid.